So I want to show you a really super simple technique to work with forms inside Elementor that open up a lot of great possibilities, especially when you're working with templates and dynamic content. Let me give you an example. We've got this job role here, and as you can see, we've got information about it. We can download the application, but what I want them to do is to be able to easily apply for the role directly from this page. We're going to insert the name, the email address, and they can upload their CV or resume if you're in the US. Send that application, and then that gets sent via email and also stored inside the website itself with access to that PDF or doc file, whatever it is. Let's take a look at how we can do this. This is probably a lot easier than you may think. We do need Elementor Pro because we're working with templates, we're working with the form builder and so on. But you can do this on any page. You don't have to work on templates. It just makes it a little easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the form inside this right-hand column. So let's go and add that from the Elements panel. We'll just click to add a normal standard form in, and you can see there's our normal fields. Let's get rid of the message. We don't care about that. And for this example, we'll turn the labels off, although I know from accessibility, not the best way of doing things. So we now have a basic plain old vanilla form. A couple of things we need to do. First of all, if we're using a template like this, we need to, when we send the email over, associate the application form with the actual page itself. So there's an easy way of doing that. We can use hidden form fields and pass dynamic data to it. So let's come back over to our form, add a new item, and from here we're going to change the type from text and just choose hidden. You can set a label if you want to. We'll just call this job role. Hop over into advanced, and from there we can set the default value. So we'll click the little dynamic tags icon, and from there we're going to choose the option for the post title. We'll select it. We're also going to get rid of this ID and put something that makes more sense in there. So we'll just call this title. You can see this also reflected inside the shortcode. That now updates to show the word title in this example. Naming it at this point just makes our life a little easier, especially if you build more comprehensive forms and you just kind of easily forget what refers to what. Okay, so there's the first part. Next thing I want to do is give them the ability to upload a file. So let's close this job role down, add another new item. Again, we're going to change this from text and choose the option for file upload. We'll label this, and we'll just call this resume or CV or whatever you want to call it. We'll set this to be required, and then you can choose how you want to send the files. Now, because I want to save this as an email and I want to save it in the submissions option inside Elementor, we can change this over and say email with both, and that will then send the attachment and link to the file that will be uploaded to the site itself. So we'll choose both. Then we can set our max file size. We'll say something like 10 megabytes, and then we'll set our allowed files. Choose whatever file formats work for you. I'm just limiting this to just typical document formats and so on. Do you want to allow multiple files? If that makes sense in your example, just enable that option. Let's again jump over to advanced, change the ID to something that makes a little bit more sense. So again, we'll just put resume in there. And again, you can see our shortcode now updates to show the name that we've just given it. Let's reorder this so it makes a little bit more sense. So there's our basic form. We can now customize anything we want here. Okay, so with that all in place, let's go back to our form. And now we can choose what happens when someone clicks that submit or send button. So let's open the actions after submit option up, and you can see by default it uses the collect submission, which will store it inside the database of WordPress in Elementor, and email. So what you need to do is select whichever option you want. So collect submissions. You can see this will just basically give you no settings. It just says it's going to collect them. Jump into email, and this is where you can set up some more parameters. Now for this example, I'm using a server that doesn't have email as part of it, but I'll show you how to set everything up, but then I'll disable it when we're testing things out. Okay, so you've got your to email address, which is where this is going to be sent to. So this will be your admin department, your enrollment, your HR, whatever it's going to be. Then you've got your subject, which in this example makes no sense. So let's get rid of that. We'll put in new application 4. Again, we can use dynamic data here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our form fields. We're going to open up our job role option, which is, if you remember, is hidden, but it's grabbing that data. We're going to simply copy this little shortcode. So we'll just Control or Command C, come back into our email option, and we'll pop that right there. So what that's going to do is that will dynamically fill that out with the name of the job role that's being submitted. Pretty cool. And because we're working with templates and dynamic content, whatever page you're using, that will be passed over from the form. Underneath then, you've got all of your message elements. So you can see this is set to all fields, but if you don't want to, you can easily replace that by, again, simply using these little shortcodes. So if all you wanted to do for some strange reason is include the title, you could simply drop that inside there. So if you find you pull over information that's not required, just change that and put in just the information from your form you want to pass over. We'll leave this set to all fields. Then we're going to come down to the from email. Now, obviously, we want this to tie in with our form. So what we're going to do is we're going to just select that, get rid of it, paste in our shortcode and change the word title to email, which is the name of the field for the email field. And we'll do exactly the same for the next one. Just delete that from there, drop that in and change that from title to name. And that's just referencing the name field and the email field. Simple as that. So once you've done that, we can then move on to the metadata. Now you can see this is going to pull in a load of extraneous stuff that we don't necessarily want, especially from a GDPR point of view. But what we're going to do is going to get rid of the credit, get rid of the remote IP and user agent. But we do want to keep the page URL because this is going to be useful when this gets sent over to the HR department and they want to see what job role it is. Even though we've passed the title, just makes it a little nicer if they can click that link and go straight over and see exactly what role is being applied for if there's any kind of ambiguity. Once you've set that, you can leave everything else as it is. So we've now set up everything that we need to do, hidden fields and so on. We'll update this. And like I say, I'm going to just disable the function to send an email for this example, but you leave that in there and you'll receive emails. So now let's go and test this out. We'll pop our name in, our email address, and we'll choose a file from our computer, making sure it's the right format. Once you've done that, click the send resume application, whatever you want to call it. After a few moments, that file will now be uploaded. That will be added to the submissions. And if you are using the email function, that will send the email, including the attachment for that particular file, over to whoever the recipient is. So if we come back into the dashboard, into Elementor and into the submission settings, let's refresh this. And you can see there's our email that's just come in, our record. Let's view this. And there we go. There's our submission. You can see the name, the email, the link to the resume, which is connected up to our media library, and also the role, which was part of that hidden field, all set up inside here. You can also see, if you take a look at the right-hand side, it says what form it's come from, so you'd probably want to rename that, and what page it's linked to. So if you click that, that will show you the job role. So if there's any ambiguity, they can see exactly what role this particular email or submission is actually associated with. Super cool. Now, this is just the basics of what you can do using a form and dynamic data and hidden fields and so on using forms inside Elementor Pro. And if you want to find out more ways of using these kinds of tools, check out this video next. It's got tons of great options in it.